Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Spellborn stream, the monster catching MMORPG powered by Mon Studios HQ. My name is Ice, and I'll be your host for today's show. And I guess you guys already see the game on stream, so let's not waste any time and get right into this. So we got from the Spellborn team, we got none other than Ghosty himself. How are you doing today, my man?
Hey, I'm doing good. We are just preparing for the end of our first season, so the whole team has been busy, and we're just preparing. Working on the new features that we have in store for our players. But yeah, super excited about this space, and as always, happy to have you as our host.
Thank you so much, Ghosty. I gotta say, I've been looking for an MMORPG in this space for years now. I thought it was a myth, I thought it didn't exist, but now that I'm seeing this, it feels like I'm one step closer to finally realizing that dream, man. This is crazy to me. I got goosebumps right now. You can't see it, because of my VTuber model, but man, I'm actually really excited to get into this. But I will definitely be getting the mic back to you, Ghosty, in just a minute. But first, let me check in with the representative behind Zverse. We got TZ joining us today. How are you doing, TZ?
Doing great. So excited and pumped to be here with you all today.
Thank you so much. Is this the first time you're seeing this too, like me, or have you seen the gameplay before already?
No, it's first time. It looks awesome.
Yeah, he's got a mount. He's riding around on a skateboard. Oh man, so many questions. Ghosty. We're absolutely going to get into this. There's too many things I want to ask you. But first, we also got my man Justin from the Grit account. Justin, man, how are you doing today, brother?
I'm fantastic. I'm just enjoying watching this gameplay. Gives me some very warm and fuzzy feelings of some of the old Super Nintendo and TurboGrafx games that I absolutely love and adore.
Yeah, man. I just out of curiosity, what kind of games did you play back in the NES and Super NES days?
A lot of RPGs. So RoboTrek, anything from NX, anything from SquareSoft,
Chrono Trigger.
I mean, that's a rite of passage is playing Chrono Trigger, but also like Super Mario RPG, Harvest Moon, Liberty or Death, anything tactical RPG based, anything turn-based RPG based. So you've got like RoboTrek, you've got like the Dragon Warrior stuff, you've got God, what are some other good ones that I played? Earthbound.
Oh yeah.
No, I'm a huge. Most of my career was in doing a lot of RPGs across from like PS1 all the way through the PS4 days. So
yeah, man, I'm right there with you, brother. I played a ton of like Final Fantasy 3, which it's actually called 6 for those of you know. If you know, you know. But Chrono Trigger, Earthbound, all the way to I'm just thinking, what's the game that reminds me? There was a classic game that was actually really inspirational back in the day. I don't know if it's as popular now, but you probably know about it. It was called Legends of Dragoon, and they really turned that, and like there's a whole franchise about it that could have came out, but they never really elaborated on the franchise. So many amazing RPGs back in the PS1 and Super NES days, man. And real quick before I toss it back to Ghosty, because you mentioned Super Mario RPG just now, did you play the remake that came out a little while ago?
Yeah, I'm actually going back through it right now.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm actually I'm forcing my oldest to play through it with me. RPGs like used to get a lot of hate back in the day, but honestly, like my oldest is 8 years old, and she loves to read, and there is nothing better in this world than reading RPG dialogue. And speaking of dialogue, there it is. It pops up. So yeah, I mean, I've worked on RPGs and having to do the dialogue. So like that's one of the big things for me is looking at that dialogue between two characters. What is their motivation? What is their what do they want to accomplish, and how is that communicated between the two characters? How immersive does it get for you?
Yeah, you're just reminding me of the classic Final Fantasy VII Chrono Trigger text crawl. And as far as like storyboarding goes, I think this facet is even more important in Web3 because I think a strong, compelling narrative often is the thing that ties all the players, all the community members together, right? So I'm glad to know that this is your bread and butter, man. I'll absolutely love to toss the mic back to you and get more into this at some point. But Ghosty, I know you're busy fighting the Krakatoa here on screen right now, but but if I can just borrow you for 1 minute, I'd love to ask, man, what has the team been working on over these past few weeks with Spellborn?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you so much to all the speakers for being present here. And regarding what our team has been working on for the past few weeks, so primarily, differentiating from the previous months, our focus has shifted towards more content because that has been generating more revenue for us. And initially we were focusing on a lot of live op events. We did event integrations with projects like Forgotten Runes, be it Play Ember, and so on. So different IPs inside our game, and those did very, very well. But what players wanted was new monster designs, more characters, more maps, and so on. And for the first 3 months, players were stuck at around 3 maps. So in the past month, actually in the past 2 weeks, to be specific, we have pushed out, I'd say, 7 different quests, 1 new location, about 10 different new monsters. So a lot of content for the players, as well as different variants, so rare monsters to look out for. And a lot of players are just grinding those monsters out because those monsters only appear like once every 1000 times. So that has been the primary focus for our players. And this is something that our community asked for. So for example, in August we did a community survey and regarding what they wanted. And the feedback that we received was they want more content. Like, we got 500 responses. Out of those 500 responses, 99% wanted more content. So we worked towards that. We prepared content in advance. Now we have like content ready for the next 6 months. And within the past 2 weeks, our revenue has shot up 400%. We have generated enough revenue for that we can pay out the team for the next 2 months. So we have generated enough revenue that covers our expenses for 2 months. And this kind of makes us profitable. So we're going to continue on this route side by side with all the features that we are working for the future gameplay. So at the moment, in the past 2 weeks, it has been all about content. In the future, we are all about making kind of turning the game into an MMORPG. So introducing PvP leagues, introducing guilds, introducing friendly matches. So friendly matches already went live, as well as a few UI changes here and there that allow players to add new friends very, very quickly. And a lot of our players have already been participating in PvP battles. A lot of our native guilds have already ran multiple custom tournaments, and the players are loving it. So yeah, this is what our team has been up to for the past, I'd say, 2 or 3 weeks. And we have a lot in store because season 1 ends in 2 days, and after that we are going to be starting with our PvP league testing, and then a lot of hidden surprises after that.
Hidden surprises to come, indeed. I know that the title of the stream is it's all about perfecting the ultimate gaming experience, but this is my first time seeing it, so if you don't mind, I'm just gonna gush a little bit. All right, I'm going off script right now. It doesn't matter. I'm watching this game and I'm actually loving it, man. So if you can talk to me a little bit about the gaming mechanics, I would love to learn more about Spellborn as a game. So like, what are we seeing on screen right now? We're seeing like 2 different I don't want to say Pokemon, but we're seeing 2 monsters battling it out. So how does the combat PvP mechanics work? Are there strengths and weaknesses? Are there elemental affinities? Like, how does all this work?
So it is, the game has been designed in a way that it is familiar, that you might have seen it in games like Pokemon, but it has on top of it different mechanics that kind of make it more interesting. So in general, you can think of Spellborn as a mixture of Pokemon plus Tamagotchi style games plus Stardew Valley. because it has farming, it has a few systems that make you kind of get attached to your monsters. So for example, if I look at my monsters right now, so this is my first monster, and it has a relationship tab. And this monster gains trust if I feed it what it likes, so it has likes and dislikes. So this trust based system kind of improves upon the existing normal turn based battle system that Pokemon has.
Yep.
As well as a few other changes that introduce like side variants, and basically decision based monster mutations. So this kind of turns the game into something that is our tagline, that every adventure is different. So every time you play the game, you'll encounter something new, be it hidden mutations, be it hidden quest lines, so you make decisions in the quests, be it hidden monsters, or be it every monster being different. Like even the stats are different, even the trust is different. So if it trusts you more, it will do more damage, it will have higher kind of super attacks. If it trusts you less, it might not even listen to you, even run away from the battle on its own. So a
Yeah.
lot of these things that we have added, it makes the game more interesting compared to the original turn-based mechanics that were present in Pokemon, and that has been our goal. Like what we wanted to do was make sure that the entry point is simple, it's easy for players to understand. But once they get into it, they realize that there's a lot more on top of it that they can learn, that they can kind of improve in terms of PvP battles. So if my monster has a 500 out of 500 trust, it will have a 50% chance of doing critical attacks, compared to a monster that has 50 trust, which would not even listen to me. It would just run away from battles. So there are a lot of things going on side by side, and these are the mechanics that have been introduced till now. But we also have a lot of MMO mechanics that will be introduced in season 2. As I mentioned, season 1 was all about preparing the game, kind of creating the baseline. Season 2 is all about converting it into a true MMORPG with attributes, professions, and so on.
Gotcha. So we're looking at Tamagotchi fused with Stardew Valley, fused with Pokemon, and it's also giving me a little bit of an Animal Crossing vibes, just with the furniture and everything that's going around. It's I definitely see the potential for that. But let's talk stats just for a little bit here. So we spoke about like critical chance, right, or critical hit rate, and all that stuff. When one of these monsters level up, are they going to be leveling up like based on attributes from the NFT, or are they leveling up based on DVs, or how does the level up system and stat system work?
Monsters gain experience based on battles. They they have a few other things that are added on top of it. But if we talk about the basic crux, they have their abilities, they have their moves. They learn new moves as they level up, as they gain experience. But you can also train them, help them learn moves using different items. There are a lot of different items that kind of play a major role in this battle system, as well as there is a lot of items to craft. So if we talk about how players can play this game, how players can have an important role in the game economy, they can do multiple things. So someone could be a farmer, they grow certain crops that only grow in certain seasons, and then they hoard those crops and sell them for higher prices in other seasons. Another player could be a crafter who can craft different items. They just store a lot of trash items in abundance and they craft them and sell them for higher prices. Then
Yep.
someone could be a monster catcher who captures different monsters and basically sells high stat monsters on the marketplace. Then there are certain players can be breeders who are good at monster breeding, because monster breeding is your best chance at getting a very, very high stat monster, because everyone wants that. In PvP, these stats play a huge role, so you want the best stats. And then we will also be introducing mining and fishing, so players can mine different rocks on the map and use those to get gems can be used to create crystals that are used to capture monsters. So a lot of different professions that players will be able to equip. And as you said, Animal Crossing vibes, we do have an apartment builder in the game, so you can actually place furniture and you can design your own apartment, you can invite your friends over.
Yes.
You have all those things set up in the game already.
Awesome. I love that. I think community determined in-game ecosystems. This really harkens back to the classic like Diablo 2 days, like World of Warcraft days. How the community members, how the guilds within the game actually determine the worth and value of items. So it's really cool to see that this is giving me all those nostalgic vibes and then some with Pokemon. Absolutely loving it. But on that note, let us actually kick into today's topic of discussion here, which is it possible to create a perfect gaming experience? What is a perfect game? I would love to love all of our panelists to kind of weigh in on this. And actually, I would love to toss the mic over to TZ first. Before we even get into any of the gaming or the perfection of the gaming bit, just let me get to know you a little bit better, TZ. What kind of games were you into, getting into the space?
So, hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, wonderful. So I would like to first start with a little bit of background about Zverse. So we are a RPG where you can tame mythical monsters, kind of like if you were to imagine a combination between Pokemon and RuneScape. And so we have one of the first in-game exchanges in Zverse where players can cook, fish, and all these transactions are on-chain. And so on any given day, we make up between 5 to 10% of all transactions on Arbitrum. And so it's pretty cool to see all the activity that's happening within the game, and it's measurable by on-chain activity.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. So yet another team really trying to bring on that MMO, those Pokemon days back. I think I ran a poll, TZ. I think it was 2023, really early last year. I ran a poll just with the gaming community on Twitter, and I said like, what if there's one style of game that Web3 wants to see in the space, what would that be? And Pokemon MMO won by a massive landslide. I'm pretty sure it was like winning by like 700 something votes, and then the next one following close, like the runner up was like 50 votes, and it was like Dark Souls or something. So I think you guys are definitely on the right track. Is it safe to assume that you were also a fan of Pokemon growing up into the gaming scene?
Yes, absolutely. I think that, we all kind of yearn for the childhood nostalgic days. So
Yeah.
definitely plays into that.
Yeah, for sure. Let me ask you this, TZ, and then we'll pass the mic on to Justin and Ghosty on this one as well. I'm very curious to know, what do you guys think? What do you guys think are some of the most important pillars that a successful game needs to have? Because I think this discussion has been going on a long time. Not that many people can give a concrete answer, and it's understandable because gaming preferences are subjective, right? So that's why whether you guys come from the RPG, the RPG preference, kind of like Justin and myself, or maybe we're into the shooter games, FPS, Pokemon, or different genres of gaming, I would love to hear your side of the story and what you think are some of the most important pillars that a game needs to have to be successful. Let's toss it over to TZ on this one, and then we'll go over to Justin.
That's a wonderful question. So I think that the main thing is to, at the very beginning, not make a differentiation between Web3 and Web2 games. Just go to the very core of game building, making a game that is fun for people to play and addicting, that people want to come back every single day and play a little bit, or even like me, play on hours on end. So I think at the very core of it, it's creating a game that people find fun. And then when we look at Web3 games, there's definitely the financial aspect that's tied in. And so seeing where the incentive is for players and making it a symbiotic relationship between both the game and the players is a crucial thing.
Absolutely. I love that, TZ. And I think that's it's one of like those holy grails in the gaming scene, right? Like how do we incentivize our community? But I think this kind of goes both ways, and it bugs me sometimes because as a consumer, I totally get the frustration from gamers. Like, we want a good game, we want to get paid. But from the developer and the team side, like, they also need to be rewarded for making a good game, right? So and the content creators that we don't ever talk about, they need to be rewarded as well for producing the content. So I think a game that truly is able to shine the light on all three of these pillars is a team that is able to create something that incentivizes all three parties in a very fair and a very positive manner. And I'll be honest, there's very few games I have seen in the space that successfully does that for all of their for all these three these types of audiences. So I'm very glad that you brought this perspective onto the table here, TC. So thank you so much for sharing. And I'd love to toss the mic over to you, Justin, for the exact same thing. What do you think are some of the most important pillars in gaming right now?
Gameplay has to be the North Star. If you're making a game solely based on an economic theory, you're not making a game. The game has to be fun. It has to have that hook to get you playing it, wanting you to come back every day. There has to be those immersive moments that encourage you to continue playing, whether it's progressing from level to level or dungeon to dungeon, or from like in this instance, capturing a new character or finding a new character with a different attribute that will allow you to progress further. Gameplay, everything has to be revolved around the gameplay element, whether it's the sinks and faucets, the onboarding, removing those levels of friction for any gamer, whether they're Web 2 or Web 3, is super important.
Love that, man. I love the point that you made there. How can we get players to come back every day? Because I'll be honest, there's a lot of games that we have here in Web3 where in the initial phases, when we're talking about it, when it's hot on the TL, we play it. But typically speaking, after 48, after 72 hours, what happens, right? Most people end up uninstalling the game and we don't go back to it. So there's definitely some kind of glue that's missing there, whether it's a story, whether it's a sense of camaraderie. I feel like a game needs to have that element, right? It needs to have something that can allow me to fall in love with the art style, the music, or maybe even the characters. Who knows, right? But it's weird, but it happens in gaming all the time. So it doesn't even need to hit all these elements. I think as long as it hits some of these elements, a game could be successful. But when it comes down to it, you're right, Justin. It needs to have that one thing that gets us coming back to play this every single day. Absolutely agree with you. What are your thoughts on this, Ghosty? What do you think are some of the most important pillars that a game needs to have to be successful?
As both the other speakers have said already, first of all, it's having a good gameplay, because if we talk about most Web3 games, they're focusing on the economy side.
Yeah.
You need to build out, even if you take an existing gameplay loop and improve upon that, that is a good thing. But if you're just taking an existing gameplay loop that was present in Web 2 and you're just converting it into a Web 2.5 game or Web 3 game, it won't work. If you are just focusing on improving the economy, it won't work. You need to create something that is either an improvement or something that is entirely new in terms of gameplay. Then you need to focus on making sure that you are able to target your specific audience. That first of all, you need to learn who your audience is. For example, for us, our audience mainly lives in Brazil or Philippines. In Brazil, like the Pokemon fan-made games are huge. Like most of the development communities for Pokemon fan-made games come either from Brazil or France, and both of the countries are in our top 5 players list. So you can see that we know who our target audience is, and how we built our game was specific to that audience. For example, and users in Brazil and Philippines, they do not have like high-end hardware. We wanted to build a monster catching game. We could have just built a 3D, very, very high graphics game, but it wouldn't work because those players cannot play those games. Those players do not have the hardware to play such games. So you need to learn, what your target audience is. And that's the second most important thing after gameplay. And then it's all about managing the game economy. Like, I always say games usually have 3 phases. The first phase is where you're ideating what to build, and you're creating a kind of your first 1000 fans. And once that has been done, then you focus on increasing that 1000 fans to 5000, and after that you're just maintaining that game economy. Like a lot of Web3 games, you can already see certain games are stuck in the first phase. If you see any game that is successful in terms of even their token doing well, you'll see that they're already in the third phase. Like, for example, games like Pixels, they already have a token live. They're now just managing their game economy. They have their first 1,000 fans, they have their first 5,000 players. Now they're just managing the game economy. And it's kind of same for us. Like, we built out our game for the past 3 years. We created our first 1,000 fans. We hosted a hunting season event last year that did pretty well for being a closed event during a bear market. We had about 5,000 monthly active users. Now we have 170,000 signups. We have players playing the game on a regular basis. So we have crossed the second stage. Now it's all about managing the game economy. Now it's all about making sure that players that are playing the game, they keep on finding it interesting from time to time. There is it doesn't get boring over time, because a lot of teams, what they think is that once they have reached that inflection point, then their job is done. But if you're building a live service game, then it's not. And most of the Web3 games are live service games. So it's all about these three things. The first is building out good gameplay. Second is knowing who your audience is. Third is actually being able to manage that game economy. Because if you are not able to do these three steps, then and you need to do all three. Like, you can't just miss out one of them. If you miss out one of them, it's an easy failure for you. So that's the three steps from my side. What I think of it as an answer.
Yeah, thank you for breaking that up for us. I love how thorough and specific you were. The gameplay needs to be good. Targeting your audience, I love that, man. I kind of want to dive into this a little bit more, because in the space, a lot of people tend to say, "Oh yeah, this is going to be the next AAA game. This is going to be the next whatever blockbuster." And then you look at the stats, like, okay, your game is about 180 gigs. And requires like the best computer in the world to run. And that is just it's not the most accessible thing. It looks great in a video, but it is not realistic, right? And it kind of goes back to what you were saying. Knowing the audience, knowing who your player base is going to be is extremely important. I think this is why games like Pokemon, games like classic, the classic MMORPGs, the ones that don't use a lot of resources, even though they don't look as good, they are often much more well received than the quote unquote AAA games. And it is simply because I'll take myself for example. I have a lot of friends that play Ragnarok Online. And the reason why we play Ragnarok Online is because when we were growing up, I'm over here in Canada, but I didn't have good computer hardware, right? I had a pretty crummy laptop, so I played that because of just hardware limitations. And then through that, I got to meet a lot of close friends from the Philippines that also play Ragnarok Online, and I realized that there was a whole culture there. And this is kind of, it reminds me of Axie Infinity a little bit. And it's like, there's a whole culture there of people that play these lower end games, quote unquote. And it's because they don't have the best internet there. They don't have the best computers, and they don't have the best graphics card and everything. But is that to say that the game is not as good? Absolutely not. The community there is bustling, and there's so many players that are actively playing Ragnarok Online all the time. So I think knowing who your audience is and catering to them is so important, Ghost. And you really do put a really good point, because after all, if we can't even take care of 1,000 players that play our game, how in the world are we going to aim to take care of 10,000 or 100,000 players going into the future, right? With regards to the title of the space, we're talking about perfection. And I understand perfection, with giant air quotes, it's basically an ever-moving goalpost. It's very difficult to achieve, and even when you achieve it, you feel like this is not perfection, because now you want something more. But, Ghosty, if you had to pick, do you have a game in mind that exemplifies to you what a perfect gaming experience could be? It could be a Web 2 or a Web 3 game. It could be anything that you've played in your life before.
The perfect game for me would be Red Dead Redemption 2. It kind of covers a lot of different things that I love about games, like the decision-making aspect, making sure that every playthrough is different, because every time you play that game, you encounter a new NPC that you haven't seen before, and you're like, did they go to the length of deciding, creating a special side quest with this NPC? And then it's pretty, so it covers all the things that I mentioned. First, it has good gameplay. Second, it has it knows its audience, like they know their audience. And the third was being able to actually create a good experience overall. And that game I've played a lot of times, And I have a few games that would come second and third just because of the decision making aspect. So if it wasn't RDR2, then it would be either the Mass Effect series or the Assassin's Creed series. It's mainly creating IPs and character stories that are memorable. And when I was growing up, I only played single player games. Like I was an introvert. I did not play multiplayer games a lot. So I focused on single playthroughs, and that's what's most memorable to me. Like storylines that are good. For example, with Assassin's Creed, the first three games, they're way ahead of any other game from that time. The story that Ezio has, it's the most perfect story I've ever seen in a game. And it is like you can see the effort that they put in it, because when you see the characters designs, you see the voice acting, it's absolutely perfect. So first it would be RDR2, then it would be Assassin's Creed, then Fallout series, then Mass Effect. These are the games that I absolutely love.
That's amazing, man. You just put another follow-up question in my head, but I'm gonna reserve that afterwards, because I do want to get the mic over to TZ and Justin on this question as well. But real quick, it seems like decision making and replayability, having a unique replayability experience on the new game pluses. I think that's something that you absolutely are looking for in gaming, right, Ghosty? But let me hear your thoughts on this, TZ. In your opinion, do you have any picks? What games come to mind when we talk about the perfect gaming experience, both Web 2 and Web 3 games?
I would say that the perfect for me is something like you guys just said, like variability from day to day. Like, of course, there's always like the fun aspect of, trying to beat a hard boss dungeon or something like that within our game. But there's also like something fun about being able to explore different aspects of the gameplay, and then maybe having like frequent updates, or even having different kind of tournaments, whether it be PvE or PvP, that adds the exciting element of a game. And so I think when a game has these kind of aspects and ever-changing like arenas, I think it makes it more captivating for the player, and then also adds a little bit of excitement day to day.
Interesting. So I guess in this sense it's a replayability, but in a different sense than New Game Plus or different NPCs. You prefer, I guess, replayability in the sense of spicing the game up with patch notes, with updates, and with new emerging metas. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Love that. And actually, I am so guilty of this. I played Dead by Daylight, I think once, and then I don't know what happened. I could not go back to the game, but you know what? After your recommendation here, TZ, I think I need to boot that back up and see what that's all about, because I feel like I'm missing a little bit of an experience there for sure. But Justin, let me hear your thoughts on this, man. What do you think are some of the perfect games that come to mind when we think of both Web 2 and Web 3 games?
Oh man, for me, like it all starts with onboarding, right? Like explaining how to play the game to the user in a fun, memorable way that encourages them to build affinity for your game as they progress. So I look at things like Metal Gear Solid, right? Like you learn how to do everything you need to do just getting to Shadow Moses Island. I look at a lot of like esoteric kind of indie style games. So stuff like stuff done by like Mizuguchi, who did like Rez, Lumines, Child of Eden. I look at a lot of the stuff that Miyamoto does at Nintendo for explaining how to play the game. The minute you popped in Super Mario 64, you were learning how to jump, how to move the camera around, how to progress, where to go next, things like that. And then once you're in the game, it's a lot of having different things to do. It's not just, capturing monsters. It's go build out your farm, grow your crops, feed your monsters, take your monsters into battle, and then start all over again. So you've got that flywheel of go do this, and then while you're on cooldown, go do something else. And when you're on cooldown for that, go do something else. And that just keeps that game progressing for you as the player. And then, as has been brought up, it's that live ops opportunities of tournaments, whether it's PvE, PvP, PvPvE, finding new ways to encourage collaboration between gamers or a competition between them, and alternating so that there's not always just one constant meta of I need to have the strongest character of this type, but maybe it's I need to start making friends with characters of this type so that we can go do this collaborative mission together. So I think those are all kind of key areas that make a game perfect.
I love that, Justin. And I gotta say something about that Metal Gear Solid reference, right? I'm pretty sure the moment you said it, you knew this was coming. But there's something so special, just about Metal Gear Solid, the MGS series. I think the one thing that stands out to me the most about that game is just with Kojima breaking the fourth wall, constantly breaking the fourth wall. The whole remember the whole Psycho Mantis thing where you cannot deal with them whatsoever. Is this really spoilers? Like we're like 20, 30 years into the future now. I don't think this is spoilers anymore. But for us back then, OG gamers back in the day, it was truly mind-blowing. It would scan the files that we had on our memory card, kind of reading into the games that we enjoyed, and then the dialogue in the game would change depending on what we played. And obviously at the time, it was completely mind-blowing. It's like, oh my God, this guy he's actually psychic. And for some context, no matter if you were to throw a chair at him, CQC him, or shoot bullets at him, there's nothing that you can do to actually hit him. So there's so many things in MGS that absolutely shatters that fourth wall. And I love every second of that. And before we actually move on to the next subject here, we have the chat is saying, Le Chat Noir says that Ragnarok is the OG MMORPG here in the Philippines. I feel you on that 1000%, Le Chat Noir. It's definitely one of those precious MMO games that will always have a special place in my heart, and I'm glad that you feel the same as well. But on that note, I do want to revisit something that Ghosty mentioned very, very early in today's show. I think we kind of missed it, but we alluded to the fact that Ghosty's favorite genre of games back then were single player games. And I wanted to ask Ghosty, and then by extension, all of our amazing panelists here, do you believe that the perfect game would be a single player game or a multiplayer game?
So it depends on a lot of things, but you can see this happening in the popular games right now. Like if you look at Fortnite, they reintroduced their OG, version. If you look at Apex Legends, they reintroduced their OG versions. Why are these games moving towards, back towards the single player modes or the versions that were kind of, grounded? It's because games these days have become very, very complex. Like if you look at Fortnite, if I start Fortnite today as a new player, I won't be able to understand it. It has become so complex. Like there's people flying here and there. Someone can just randomly spawn behind me, so it gets very confusing. And if we talk about the perfect game, I would say it's something that is simple to understand. And single player games they have this benefit there that they can introduce these things via quest lines, via the story itself. But if we talk about multiplayer games, or games that are open world, and games that are free to play, that are live service games, they kind of have are restricted because they want the player to kind of learn these things on their own via attribute systems, via things that they can grind over time. Because if we look at, for example, games like PokeMMO, this is a fan made Pokemon game project, and you don't learn anything about PvP there. You don't learn anything about building teams there. You have to learn those things on your own. But if it was a single player game, they would have taught those things on their own. So it's important that games kind of create a good path for the player to enter. Single player games have this advantage there, but single player games lack replayability. Like games like RDR2, they perform really, really well because of their decision making aspects. But if we look at single player games in general, I'll play a game. For example, I'll play the Spider-Man 2 game. I'll finish that game in a single day, and I won't be able to play it again and again because now I know the whole storyline. I don't want to replay the storyline because I know what will happen next. This is where multiplayer games are at an advantage, because now there are moments that are created just because you are interacting with your friends, just because you're interacting with people that will be your friends, and you are spending time with them. So both of them have their advantages and disadvantages. But in my opinion, the perfect game would be that has a good entry point for the player, so it's not too complex, has the entry point that is similar to single player games, but it gradually becomes multiplayer, where then it has a lot of replayability, so you never get bored of it. You can spend time with your friends in it. And that's something what we are trying to create with Spellbound itself. Like, players start with the game as a single player storyline. They interact with characters and here and there, and it slowly gradually opens up with like in the first quest, you don't even see other players on the map. You just see the NPCs that you interact with. Once you complete the intro quest, all of a sudden a lot of information is unlocked for you. You see your friends on the map, you can interact with them. You complete the Tower of Infinity. Once you complete it enough, then you're able to unlock PvP battles, and then you're able to unlock guilds. So it's a gradual increase, and that's the best way to introduce to a player all the mechanics of a game. Of course, it can be improved over time, but in my opinion, that's how the perfect game would be. Like, it starts as a single player game. It has all the benefits that a single player game has, but it gradually takes on the benefits of multiplayer games with the infinite replayability, and basically being able to spend time while you're interacting with your friends.
Yeah, I love that, man. Starting off as a single player and gradually becoming a multiplayer experience. And I think this is it's kind of reminiscent of real life, right? When we start out in the Pokemon Academy or whatever, we're starting to get our bearings, and over time, when we're actually ready to take on the world, that's when other NPCs start appearing. That's when other PvP players start appearing, and that's when we start to realize, oh, I thought I was really good in this world, but turns out there's so many other players that are like much further ahead. And I think that's what drives the motivation to truly get better, right? And I think let me add on one little bit to what you said. You said a game that is simple to understand. Would you agree if I said simple to understand but harder to master, so a higher skill ceiling?
Exactly. It should be simple. I would say not even simple, but simplistic to understand. But it should not be simple enough that I play the game and I understand all of it within 5 minutes. Like, it should be a gradual increase in information. Things that you learn about the game. But it shouldn't be instant. Like, I shouldn't know everything about the game just from the looks of it.
Gotcha, man. I love that. I love that answer. Let me toss this one over to you, TZ. Even though I feel like based on our conversation before, I might be able to guess your answer on this, but maybe I'm due for a surprise. Do you think the perfect gaming experience would be a single player game or a multiplayer game?
Well, now I'm kind of curious what you thought my answer was.
I mean, we talked about the updates and patches that kind of alludes to like League of Legends and multiplayer kind of games. That's my guess, but I could be totally wrong.
You're on the right track. So
Okay.
I think that in terms of the perfect game for me, I think it's a combination of both. So like when you have single player games, you have kind of like you're able to immerse yourself in whatever narrative of the game, and then also you're able to explore the world at your own pace, and then you can also engage with all the game systems like by yourself without the presence of other players or any distractions. And I think that this can be like a very rewarding and personal experience.
True.
However, like with a lot of Web3 games, and especially with our game Zverse, it's built on like decentralized ownership, it's built on community-centric gameplay, and we also have like a foundation of player-driven economy. And so in this context, multiplayer, the aspect is incredibly crucial. And so when you have the players interacting with one another, you can form alliances, you can engage in PvP battles, or you can collaborate on quests and projects. And I think that this social dynamic not only enhances the overall experience, but it also unlocks like a lot of new avenues that you otherwise would not be able to do if you were just a single player game. And so I think in terms of content creation, asset trading, and the development of in-game economies, it's very crucial to have that multiplayer aspect.
Very true. So I guess there's much more depth to this question than I initially imagined. Because I was just saying, what is the ultimate gaming experience? What does that look like? But I think you're very right on this, because it seems like when we're talking about like Web 2 or offline games, yeah, it seems like a single player does have certain advantages. And off the top of my head, I can think single player games are gaming experiences that I can play whenever I want, right? I'm not subject to the fact that, oh, I need to get my Discord community involved. I need to make a game night. I need to rely on matchmaking in order to get into a game. There's none of that happening in single player. But when we're taking things to Web3, this becomes a much bigger concern, because not only is trading an economy something that requires multiple players and multiple entities, a lot of these Web3 online games, it relies on matchmaking, and not every single none of these Web3 games are at the caliber of Riot Games, League of Legends, Dota, or maybe Off the Grid is coming awfully closer. But it is true, right? Like most Web3 games, when we kind of log in, one of the fundamental issues that we run into is we have trouble getting into lobbies. There is a lack of players, and we don't have a very reliable method of matchmaking. So I think a combination of both worlds in this particular example is probably the correct answer. But I think yeah, you're right. I think spreading this question in the realms of Web 2 versus Web 3 would be a lot more applicable. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let me ask you the same thing, Justin, because I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on this, man. Every single time you unmute your mic, you just everything that you say is just giving me like all these precious memories and flashbacks to the gaming experiences that I had in my past as well. So let me ask you this, brother. In your mind, what do you think the perfect gaming experience should be? Is it a single player game or a multiplayer game to you?
I think it really depends on everyone likes different styles of games, right? Like old school games, like, when I was growing up, all right, I'm old. I'll just say it out loud. I mean, the internet was just starting. And so that was where you built your community, where you would go on GameFAQs message board and be like, hey, I'm playing Chrono Trigger. I'm having a hard time with this boss, or I'm playing, Earthbound and can't beat the final boss. And that was your community, and that's how you exchanged ideas about different tactics, who to put in your party for different RPGs, things like that. And then as we've moved kind of into the multiplayer, or the massively multiplayer world, whether it's like EverQuest or even going back even further, like Quake was online, and you would have these wonderful experiences with your clan or your guild, playing until 3-4 o'clock in the morning, with people all over the world that couldn't understand them, they couldn't understand you, but you shared a common language of FPS and owning the map or camping in certain spots, things like that. And then you moved into the Web3 space where now you're part of the community before the game is even launched, and now you're excited about the announced trailer and trailer 1, 2, and 3 that show off different gameplay components. You're allowed to be a part of the ecosystem way earlier than you've ever been allowed to before, compared to the Web 2 side of things. So I think it really just depends on what kind of game you like, what kind of experience you're looking for. Sometimes I love to play, I love the old school shoot 'em ups, right? Like Raystorm, Einhander, Thunder Force, and I have a blast playing those. Sometimes I just dig jumping into like an old fighting game like Guilty Gear, or stuff that only got released in Japan. So it just really depends on what I want to do that day, what kind of experience I want to have as the gamer, and that kind of dictates and drives whether it's single player or multiplayer, whether it's Web 2, whether it's Web 3, whether it's console versus mobile or PC. It just really depends on what I'm looking to experience at that point in time.
Gotcha. You know what? And when you say shoot 'em ups, the classic shoot 'em ups, I thought about Metal Slug. I was like, oh, please say Metal Slug, please say Metal Slug. but I'm sure that was you played that too back in the day, have you not?
Yes. I've got the they just Bitmap Books did a fantastic hardcover history of Metal Slug.
Oh, no way.
highly recommend anyone that's a fan of side-scrolling platformers or shoot 'em ups, pick that up because that book is phenomenal. Written by James Milkey, who used to be an editor over at EGM and GMR, part of the Ziff Davis family of publications. If you're old and remember, those magazines, it's a fantastic book. I supported it early, so I got like this awesome poster that comes with it that will be framed and put up here in my office very soon.
Love it, man. And we got chat absolutely popping off on that comment earlier, Justin. They're saying, Justin, you are not old. You are Santa, and Santa is immortal. I mean, I see where you're going with that, chat. It's I love it, and wow, man, just Metal. I got to check this out. If you can actually link that in the private chat, I would be more than happy to check that out, Justin. But as we
let me find it.
Yeah, it's right there. If you click on the right side of the window in the StreamYard, it says a private chat, so you can actually just drop the link there. But as we wind down to the closing section of today's stream, I would love to toss the mic back over to Ghosty and just to get some insight on what the community has been up to, what the team is now building. Because as you said, season 2 is right around the corner. So what can players look forward to coming into season 2?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you so much to both the speakers. And obviously, I also will be checking out all the games mentioned here, at least, going back to the old school games again, because this conversation has kind of brought a lot of games to my mind that I want to replay again. And talking about the things that we are focusing on next at Spellbound. So first of all, as mentioned, we will be introducing professions, we will be introducing attributes, and a few other gameplay mechanics such as fishing and mining will be added to the game. And this will kind of make the gameplay loop almost infinite. So you can max out your stats. It will be kind of a tree-based system similar to Skyrim. And you can max out your stats. Once you max them out, you can exchange them for an essence, and that essence, one essence equals 0.02% increased chance for an enchanted monster. So essentially you can grind towards having a better luck in the game if you do not have a better luck already. So that's the first thing. And it will be a very, very in-depth system. So you can, a lot of players complain about not being able to get a lot of gems. So mining will help you with that. A lot of players complain about not being able to get a lot of fishes. Fishing will help you with that. And all these systems will have learning kind of progressive learning loops. So as you progress the crafting side of things, you will unlock new recipes, you will unlock different items that you couldn't craft before, and these can be rare items. One of those can bring your dead monsters back to life. So these can be rare monsters that you lost during battles or had to free them before, so you can bring them back to life and so on. So a lot of things there. That's the first part in terms of converting the games towards a MMORPG. Then there are a lot of UI UX improvements towards the chat system, as well as addition of PvP leagues, which will be going into testing this weekend. So if you have a very, very weak Woodot is the starter monster. If you have a weak one, you can participate in the testing for the whole next week, and you can get a strong Woodot as a reward. So you can kind of breed them out later on. But essentially, it's a very, very good and an exclusive reward that won't be available later on. You have to participate in testing this coming week. And after that, PvP leagues will start along with Season 2. Season 2 will focus on adding a lot of multiplayer components such as guild systems. Guilds is something that our community has been waiting on for a very, very long time. We already have like 6 or 7 native guilds. One of them even has like 2,000 members on their Facebook group. So a lot of players already just waiting for these systems to go live, because what they want to do is trade their monsters, improve their monsters, and kind of win out the PvP league systems, win out the guild wars, battle against the guardians. So a lot of that content is coming out within the next 2 months. So this month and December, along with Open Economy, so the token itself, as well as being able to mint out your monsters, trade them with your friends, and a lot of sneaky mechanics that depend upon trading. So we will incentivize you to trade your monsters, and certain mutations might only unlock after you have traded them. So that's how we are trying to mix up the game itself with Web 2 and Web 3. And after that, once season 2 is done, then we will be focusing on experiment, which is on-chain experiments. We have a lot of things in store that we have been working on for the past 2 or 3 years. A lot of our contracts just are eating dust. They're just waiting for the game to reach its multiplayer stage. Once the game does reach that stage, we will be pushing out those features, monster adventures, on-chain gameplay, a lot of experiments that our team wants to play around with. So a lot of things for the players to look forward to within Spellborn. And if you are getting a good rank in the PvP Leagues Era 1, you will be able to get early access to a second game, which is Guardians of Celestia, which should be coming out maybe Q1 or Q2 next year. So a lot of things for players to look forward to within Spellborn, as well as within the whole ecosystem that we are building. And Guardians of Celestia, for those who do not know, it's a game set in the same story world as Spellborn, but 1,000 years before. It's a different genre of a game. So it's a match 3 RPG. You collect monster cards, and then you can, kind of play a match 3 matrix. And you collect these cards, you can collect monsters in that, and those are tradable cards. So it's a mixture of match 3 plus RPG plus kind of TCG games. And I am 100% sure that all the Spellborn players will love it. So yeah, that's mostly it. That mostly the things that we're focusing on at the moment. And there are other things that I'm not allowed to share yet, but these things should already hype up the player base,
Yeah, I was
based
just
on
gonna
what
say,
they're
there's more.
looking forward to.
Wow, there's more. Oh my goodness! Wow, I was just gonna say Ghosty coming in hot in the last second with the saucy backloaded alpha there, but no, guys, there's in addition to fishing, mining, new items, crafting systems, UI UX improvements, PvP leagues, guild wars, new resources and essences, increasing the odds of rare drops, and of course, Guardians of Celestia. There is even more alpha that Ghosty didn't share. So that's a lot to look forward to, man. We won't be getting into that this stream. Of course, we gotta save some sauce for future shows. But one last time for our audience members in the chat, if they, and myself included, want more information on Spellborn, if we want to start our journey today on Spellborn, where can we go?
Just log into spellborn.gg. You can start out the game. You can sign up with either Google or Apple ID. In-game wallet, on-chain wallet is automatically created for you whenever you sign up. This wallet supports multiple chains. So, whenever you're spending inside the game, USDC, USDT, you can spend using multiple chains. So be it Polygon, be it, Arbitrum, AVAX, and so on. So it's kind of the best of what you can have in terms of onboarding inside Web3, and it is free to play. So Spellborn is a free to play monster catching MMO. It is the mixture of Tamagotchi, Pokemon, Stardew, and essentially, if you like building out, designing apartments, then there's that for you as well. And if you want to get started, Season 2 is going to begin later this month, but you can still prepare for it by just signing up and starting catching monsters. And because Season 2 will mostly focus on PvP, so you need to prepare your squads, and you need to prepare your team for the PvP leagues, so that you can win as many battles as possible. Because PvP leagues have some juicy rewards, like those are the rewards that everyone should be looking out for, and those rewards will not come again and again. The PvP leagues will go live every 45 days. So one era lasts for 45 days, and PvP League 1 will start probably around 23rd of this month. So yeah, a lot of things for players to look forward to. If you are new to Spellborn, check out the community run wiki. We have a lot of community run projects. We have a lot of guilds already live. You can make friends. They will guide you throughout the game. They will help you out in terms of learning different mechanics. The spellborn.wiki website is a community run project. run by us, some of our community members who love the game. So if you want to learn about mechanics, want to learn about quests, monsters, all of that information is present there.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Ghosty. You guys heard the man. Spellborn.gg to start your journey today. Thank you so much, Ghosty, TZ, and Justin for taking the time to really join us on stream and talk about your past, your passions. I loved every moment of it. And of course, thank you, chat, for tuning in. We really do appreciate every single one of you guys. Now, make sure you guys are all following the Spellborn House account and turn on those notification bells so you don't miss out on any of our latest updates. But until then, this is going to be Ice signing off, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, everybody. Have a good night.